Welcome back to my channel. My name is Junior Lee. I'm a vacant land wholesaler who has closed over 100 deals in my career. In this series, I'm going to cover every single deal that I've ever closed and give away enough detail and information about the deal so that way I can hopefully inspire someone else to begin their wholesaling journey and have success for themselves. Thank you for watching. In this video, I'm going to cover my 17th closing, which actually took place back on June 7th in 2021. Where I was able to make $1,500 with about 30 minutes of active work virtually from my computer using none of my own money and not having a real estate license. I want to talk to you about this deal as well as many others in the future so that way you yourself can go out and begin doing this for yourself. So this particular closing took place in a city called Sylvania, Georgia. And the way it came about was me being connected with a real estate agent in South Georgia who was actually local to the property, who advised me that if I were to generate a large parcel of land that he could help me navigate through and actually get it closed to one of his buyers that were looking for land. Now, at that time, I had only closed, for the most part, smaller parcels of land. So I began my marketing list with the minimum filter of 10,000 square feet with no maximum, in hopes that typical spec lots and infill lots would come up on my list, as well as large pieces of land. Now, in this video, I'm actually going to show you exactly how I search on Propstream and generate my list, so that way you are able to do so if you have a Propstream account or something similar. So the way I identified this market was through connecting with a local realtor who at that time had been in real estate for 25 years. And if you've been following along this series, it's actually the agent that I did a double closing with, where one closing took place at my typical closing attorney's office and the next one took place at his, and we closed on, it was a larger parcel of land. I believe it was like 107 acres. I can't exactly remember off the top of my head, as I don't have that property's information in front of me. I have this one. So the market was identified because of that agent, but the disposition method on this was not that agent. I took it upon myself to run comps on this lot and get it under contract, and then I sold it through my own efforts. But the market was identified because of that agent. I'm going to walk you through and share my screen with you as to how I actually create my Propstream list. I'll give a few examples and show you all my filters, so that way, if you have a Propstream account or you have access to one, whatever the case may be, you can locate your market and now go and create your own list. Okay, so in this portion of the video, I'm going to show you the exact filters that I used for this specific deal to export the list. I typically change these filters. It just really depends on the area. But for this one specifically, I was looking to break into this market. So these are the filters that I used on Propstream to do so. So I search the city, and then here are the filters. I want to make sure that it's vacant land. I want the MLS status to be no. The ownership, because I use, excuse me, let me put this over here. Because I use clearskip.com, I don't have to make sure that they're individual, because individual costs the same as LLC. Typically, I want to make sure that they've owned the land for a few years. It doesn't have to be too terribly long, but a few years should be good enough. I do 2, sometimes I do 5. It just really depends on the market. For this one, I didn't need a ton of motivation, so I did 2. And for motivation purposes, you can also put a maximum on number of properties owned. The more they own, the more savvy they're going to be, the closer to retail that they're going to want. So if you want someone who may have inherited the property or just happen to have bought it, for whatever circumstances, if they own 15 or 20, more than likely they're an investor. more than likely they're going to sell for top dollar. So you could honestly do 2 as the maximum number of properties owned. My preference for the owner location is out of state. So ownership info is that. So we got 2 years owned, no maximum time, no specific owner type, absentee owner out of state, and the most the amount of properties that they own is 2. Property characteristics I forgot to add. You want it to at least be 10,000 square feet. Now, there are parts of Florida specifically, or more metro parts of Georgia or other states, whatever, where it can be a little bit smaller, but typically in your typical market, you're going to want at least 10,000 square feet. An acre is 43,560 square feet. So 10,000 is right at a quarter of an acre. In some markets, you would even want a half of an acre, because if they need a septic system, they'll need at least a half of an acre. So got your filters locked in. Vacant land. You also can honestly toss in agricultural. You see if you pay attention here, 127 is the number of properties with the current filters. If you add agricultural, it goes up to 130. It's not a lot, but in certain markets, it will be a lot. So you got vacant land, add agricultural, lot size minimum 10,000, MLS. No, you don't want it on market unless you do on market. But if you're going to go on market, save your money and just call the listing directly. 2 years of ownership, 2 properties on max, out of state. This should give you some decently motivated sellers, so you can keep these same filters. What you'll do is you click on these and you'll add the list. As you see here, I've already saved my 10,000 for the one, and then you'll type in example and then you save. So that's how you do that. And now that you got your filters locked in, you can take those filters and do any city. So you see here, Lehigh Acres. I searched the exact same thing with the same filters, and you've got 9,000. So the market that this video is about is Sylvania, Georgia. Much less volume than parts of Southwest Florida. And then, so if you're starting out and you can't afford to pull a list of this size, or even if you can't afford it and you don't want to spend $900 on a list size or a skip tracing list, you can even get more strict with your filters, I guess you could say. For instance, you could do ownership info. You can make them, you can make them have owned it for a longer period of time. See, that dropped 1,000 off. You can even do individual owners. That dropped a few hundred off that way. You can put a maximum on lot size. So let's say in Florida, you don't need your lots to be that big. So you can do 25,000 square foot. You can drop agricultural. There's many ways that you can get that list size down. And if you have to, what you can do is filter. Say you only want to pull a list of 1,000, because that should be like $100. You could just do that and then show. Now you've only got 1,000 selected that you can save to your list if you want. Example. So that's how you do the Propstream thing. Every time I'm mentioning that I just export my list from Propstream, this is exactly how I do it. Obviously, depending on the type of asset that I'm going after, the filters will vary, but you can use these filters here to at least get a start. This is a great way to get your foot in the door. If you can pull a list of 1,000, that's not a ton. I mean, honestly, if you get the phone numbers on 1,000 properties, you could genuinely text them in one day. But 1,000 is a good place to start. If you call and text and follow up with those people, you can get a deal. I typically recommend at least shooting for 10,000 properties on your first list. That should give you enough data to work with for a couple of weeks, depending on the amount of outreach that you're able to do with your current circumstances. So yeah, I mean, just find your market. I want to mention that Florida is a bit of a more competitive market. I know that there's a lot of groups on Facebook where it seems like maybe 70% of the people that are attempting to wholesale or actively wholesaling are working in these Southwest Florida markets. And I understand why, the prices on them are not that high. So when I first started out, to me, for some reason, I could conceptualize why someone would purchase a $10,000 piece of land, because I could picture having access to $10,000 and being able to buy land. So Florida is a great market for sure. I don't want to tell you don't go there, because I'm not telling you to be afraid of competition. I'm just telling you, if you're going to focus on some of these Southwest Florida markets or panhandle markets or whatever the case may be, do not be surprised when the sellers have been texted 2 or 3 times that week, because myself and several other people that are actively wholesaling land have either already worked in these areas or are actively working. But again, people start to fall under these filters every single day. You see, I put minimum 2 years owned. Well, a year ago, there's a whole bunch of people that would not have fallen onto this list. Fast forward 1 year later, now they are falling onto this list. So yeah, don't shy away from these markets. I'm just trying to set realistic expectations, because a lot of people that are starting off with wholesaling, it's a low barrier of entry, low cost way of getting into real estate, because you don't necessarily need a lot of money to get going. So I don't want you to get your hopes up and start in a market where it may be competitive and feel as though you've wasted money. I would definitely advise to take time and research markets, and definitely line up your buyers before you start this marketing. The positive thing about a Lehigh Acres or somewhere similar in Southwest Florida is that buyers are able to provide you with a buy box. So a lot of times in these Florida markets, a buyer can tell you, I need 10,000 square foot lot. If it has city water and sewer, I'll pay $20,000. If it doesn't, I'll pay $12,000. I'm not saying these numbers are legitimate. I don't know. It just really depends. Connect with your buyers and figure it out. But that's the positive thing about Florida, because you can have almost no skills or no experience and just watch this video that I'm telling you about, learn how to export and skip trace a list. And now you can shoot off text messages, make phone calls, and say, hey, I'm offering $10,000, just offer $10,000. And when someone accepts it, if you have a buyer with a buy box that says they'll pay $12,000 or $20,000, you are then able to assign for the difference if you have it locked up for $10,000. After the list was actually created, I exported that exact Propstream list and I sent it over to clearskip.com for skip tracing. They returned the phone numbers ASAP. And as soon as I had the phone numbers, I began SMS marketing. At that time, I was using a different SMS tool. At the time, it was Batch Leads. You are more than welcome to work with Batch Leads or REI Reply or any of these other SMS softwares. I'm currently using Launch Control. I do have an affiliate link. If you want to use them, I'll help you build it out. It's completely up to you. Or if you want to text from your phone, that is fine as well. But you just want to get your data and begin marketing to these sellers. That is what will lead you to be successful in this business. You need to be on the phone every single day talking to sellers as well as buyers and agents. So use whatever tools you have access to and just make sure you're marketing every single day. You don't have to use anything that I'm telling you to use. I do not believe that you need to use the exact same tools as me to be successful. There are many other people in the space that are using a wide variety of tools. Anything will work as long as you do. So as long as you're working, you can make anything work. So once the list was returned to me and I had it exported into my SMS software, I began texting. Once the seller had replied, I took a look, I referred back to Propstream to see that it was actually a smaller spec lot. And when I say spec lot, that's just a term that I use because the people that I worked with early on, whenever I would talk about something that was, let's say, less than 5 acres, typically less than an acre, they would refer to it as a spec lot. Often in this industry, you will hear people refer to smaller parcels of land as an infill lot or a lot, or in my case, I call them spec lots, because at that time I was dealing with people who were building spec homes, which are just homes that are built like not on the higher end. They're not luxury, they're not custom. I'm not saying that they're cheap, but they're efficient. So they come in and they build a spec home that's already a floor plan that they may have used on several occasions. A lot of my buyers and builders, they have 1 or 2 floor plans, probably more, but they come in and they buy the land from me and they build the same floor plan, a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot home, in and out in 6 months, sold. So when you hear me say spec, SPEC, spec lot, that's what I'm referring to. And you can even take that and run with it. You can use infill lots. Infill lots means there's a neighborhood with a bunch of homes and then there's, some vacant lots in there. That's a way to identify an infill lot. But if you want to steal my terminology, I have no problem with it. You can actually post in groups and come across as a little more savvy or sophisticated. You can post, for instance, are there any spec builders looking for vacant land that is off market and exclusive to you? And that's how you can actually generate some of these buyers. Now, once you begin conversing with the buyers, you want to gather as much information from them as possible, and you want them to be as involved as they're willing to be. Now, I understand that a lot of these builders and buyers, especially if they're, been in the industry for a while and they're doing a lot of great work, they may not have a lot of time to work with you and your leads, but the best buyers, from my instance, are the ones willing to take the time to look at your leads. I rank buyers in levels. A level 1 buyer tells you, bring me a good deal, I'll buy it from you. And I'm not mad at these types of buyers. It's just when you say bring me a good deal, what does that mean? If I get something at a deep discount, if there are comps for, let's say, a 1/4 acre of land in this area, and I see 5 or 6 comps that have sold for $30,000, and now I get something under contract for $14,000, why would I then refer back to that level 1 buyer who said, bring me a good deal and I'll buy it from you, when I see that the market is demanding $30,000? Wouldn't it make the most sense to just advertise that property myself for retail buyers at $30,000 to maximize my efforts? I'm the one that made the list, made the connection with the seller, analyzed the deal, and made the offer. So I'm the one that's holding this contract and has control and equitable interest of this property at $14,000. I know for a fact that if an investor is going to take it from me, and I don't mean steal it from me, I mean like buy it from me, they're not going to pay $30,000. If they're paying 75%, they're going to pay $22,000. But if I am patient and I advertise to realtors and Facebook Marketplace and Facebook groups where retail buyers, which means people that are going to buy it and actually live on it themselves, are actively hunting for deals, couldn't I just market it to them for $30,000 and accept whatever they're offering? That's why I categorize those types of buyers that say, bring me a good deal, as a level 1 buyer. A level 2 buyer is someone who gives you a buy box, which is more common in metro areas as well as Florida. I buy X type of lot for the certain amount of money. And then they're a little bit better, in my opinion, than level 1 buyers. A level 3 buyer is the best type of buyer. That is someone who is willing to have a Google sheet shared with you, and you will share the leads early on. Now, these people will give you a maximum dollar for what they're willing to pay for your leads, your specific leads. Now, you then just have to go and make an offer based on their numbers, get it under contract, and assign it to them for the difference. I stay true to level 3 buyers because they put in the effort and the time to analyze these leads. So if they say they're willing to pay $20,000 for a lot, and I make an offer of 10 and myself and the seller settle at 18, I will straight up assign that lead to my level 3 buyer for $2,000, knowing good and well that I could take that and maybe market it at $30,000. The level 3 buyer took the time to look at my lead, analyze, and give me their all-in number. So you don't have to do this. I'm not telling you what to do. It's just from my experience. I stay true to these people, these men and women, and I assign it to them for the price that they've told me. I don't care if I could make more money elsewhere. I care about relationships, and these people will come back for more, especially if you all do a couple of deals together. I say all of that to say that in this particular case, I did not have a level 1, 2, or 3 buyer. I was lucky enough to have a realtor point me in the direction of an area. So I exported the list, got the numbers from ClearSkip, and I began texting. Once the person replied back, we settled at $5,000 as a purchase price. Now you'll find in some of these markets that if the seller is willing to sell, a piece of land for $5,000, now there may not be a new construction market in that area. There's a particular market that I'm going to refer to, and don't get me wrong and think that this market is not possible to make money in, because I actually have had my best deal ever in this market. But Macon, Georgia, if you start marketing for infill lots and people are willing to sell to you for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, you may have trouble moving that because there isn't a lot of new construction activity in Macon, because there's just not a higher end home value there. You can go and find homes in Macon that are turnkey with renters in there for, $70,000. So there's just not a new construction market. Now, places in North Georgia, North Carolina, outside of Charlotte, various places in Florida, there's a great new construction market. And even in Florida, you can pick up a lot for $10,000, build a house, and sell it for $300,000. But there are particular areas, so just be wary and maybe do a little research and see what's for sale on Zillow. If there's on-market properties, vacant lots that are similar to what you can find on Propstream for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, it may not be the best market to work in unless you get plugged in with a level 2 or 3 buyer who is willing to buy in these areas for whatever reason. However, my particular deal in Sylvania, the reason it was appealing to me is because it was unrestricted, which means a mobile home could be placed on it. So when I saw they wanted $5,000 and I saw that there were comps at, $10,000, I felt fairly confident. So I got it under contract with a 3-page purchase agreement that is assignable. And once I had it under contract, I had equitable interest in the property. So once I had it under contract, I had my assignability language in there and marketability language in my agreement. I began marketing it on Facebook and Facebook Marketplace. So I started off marketing it at $12,000 and I wasn't getting much interest. What I like to do when I'm not getting a lot of interest on Facebook is I just do price drops until there's a point where someone will pay for it. So I did price drop. I believe I price dropped just below $10,000. And after I had had it for about a month, I got an offer for $6,500, which isn't great. It's not a home run by any means, but it's a deal. It's $1,500 off of a list that cost me, $300 to pull because it was a list of 3,000 properties. If you notice back in the loom that I recorded to put in this video, there were not a lot of properties in this particular market. So you're able to take a list that cost me $300 at the time and 5x my money. If you do that on a bigger scale, it's a lot more money. So that's the way I think about it. What I began to realize at this point is that wholesaling, and I might catch some flack for this if somebody sees this that wants to argue with me, but wholesaling and wholesaling land is not a business, especially just starting out. Back then, I didn't have any employees. I didn't have any virtual assistants. It's not a business. It is a sales job. It is a sales job, and you're just self-employed if you do this full time. Even if you don't, you're still self-employed. It's just a really high-paying sales job, So I was okay at the time with making $1,500 on this deal because the list only cost me $300. So I had the offer. I had not much interest other than that. And I said, okay, that's fine with me. Take the assignment. So I sent the assignment for $1,500 to the buyer. I also attached the original purchase agreement so that way they understood what was being assigned to them, and they signed it. So once I had both of them, I took the purchase and sale agreement and the assignment of contract, and I emailed that to my attorney. I said, the buyer is ready to close whenever, and so can you begin title search? They did the title search. Everything came back good to go. There were no issues. There were no title issues. Examples of some title issues that I've ran into in the past is the property that was bought on a quick claim deed, and maybe the person that signed it over, they didn't sign it properly, or if it was bought at a tax sale 4 years ago and never taken through a quiet title proceeding. These are just some examples. You can search title issues to see what types of things you may be able to run into. But I didn't have any on this one, and I was very fortunate. Something I advise you to do, if you get something under contract, immediately ask them, how did you take possession of this property, and do you have title insurance? That will save you a world of headache, because if you get it under contract and you assign it and you're set to make any amount of money, and then you send that to the closing attorney and it comes up that this property cannot close without a quiet title proceeding, more than likely, I'm not saying always, your seller is not willing to do that because it can cost $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 potentially, depending on your area, and take up to 6 months. Now, also, your buyer's not going to be willing to close on it and do the quiet title proceeding themselves, more than likely. So you're just going to be greatly disappointed. I have had, for instance, a $13,000 assignment set to close, and there were title issues that the seller was not willing to resolve and the buyer was not willing to resolve. And it was heartbreaking. And I also then, on top of not making $13,000, was on the hook for a $600 title search. So not only did it not close, not only did I not make $13,000, but I had to actually pay $600 because I took it upon myself to just send to the title company to have the title search performed. And that's an expensive lesson when you don't have a lot of money. It's honestly an expensive lesson if you have a lot of money. Who wants to pay $600 for nothing? Not me. So as soon as you get something under contract, ask, do you have title insurance? How did you take possession of this property? If they don't have title insurance, figure out why. If they bought it at a tax sale, ask if they've done a quiet title proceeding. And if not, ask if they're willing to do one. And if they're not, you're going to need that property dirt cheap, and you need a specific type of buyer that buys these troubled properties. There are people out there that will buy it for sure, but you need to have that person lined up already. You don't want to be selling this to a retail buyer who wants to live on it, who's now going to have to buy it, close on it, do a quiet title proceeding before they can do anything with it. So I'm sure that was a lot of information, but it's true. Luckily, in this case, there was no title issues, so we were able to close, no problem. So once the title search was done, the closing was scheduled with the seller. They were doing a remote closing, so they just had to go and sign their closing documents with a notary and 2 witnesses, which oftentimes can be done at a local UPS or FedEx. A lot of the employees there are notaries, and a lot of the times when the sellers go in to sign, there will be enough other employees there to act as witnesses, or you can actually even ask some of the other customers. I've done a lot of double closings in my day, especially in Florida, whenever I was doing a lot of double closings, and I had to actually sign closing documents. In those cases, when you're doing an assignment, you don't have to sign any closing documents. Probably there may be a title company or closing attorney that requires you to sign something. In my experience, that's not the case. But I've had to go to a local UPS and sign, and if I needed witnesses, I would just simply ask the other customers, if there weren't enough employees, if they would be willing to witness a real estate closing. I've only been told no like 2 times out of the 30 that I've had to do this. It's kind of frustrating because you're like, I'm not asking you to do anything illegal. I'm just asking you to witness me sign something. But I guess I understand where they're coming from when they say no. But just be polite whenever you ask. Just say, hey, I'm buying some land. It's required a notary and some witnesses. Do you mind being a quick witness on this? And if they say no, you may have to just ask a different customer, or you may have to, I don't know, But I've only been told no twice, and then I just asked the person behind the people that told me no, and they said yes. So that's my spill on remote closings. And my seller actually did a remote closing in this case, and my buyer went in person to close. And I was cut a $1,500 check, and all that I did was create the list on Propstream, text from my SMS software, send the contracts via DocuSign, and then send an email to the attorney. So $1,500 is not a lot of money, but it's a lot of money when that's all you have to do. It's super easy, and if you do 50 of those a year, that's $75,000. So yeah, like I said, wholesaling, especially in the beginning, is just a sales job. And if you're working a sales job and you were to get a $1,500 commission for 30 to 45 minutes worth of work, you would not be mad. So don't be upset and don't turn your nose up at those types of opportunities in this business. You can if you want. I don't care. It's up to you. You can say $5,000 or nothing, $10,000 or nothing. But me personally, still to this day, if I get something under contract and I'm able to make $2,000 on it, that's rent for the month. I'm not mad about that. That's easy. And I also want to make note that today is a different market than when I got started. It's a completely different world. I don't want you to begin this business not necessarily with unrealistic expectations, but I just don't want you to hop in here and get discouraged if it either takes a while to get your first deal closed or you don't make as much money on your first closing. Just be persistent. If you get in this business and you start working hard enough, you will make it work. No matter the market, no matter the circumstances, no matter the regulations, just study and just understand the business. And honestly, if you're watching this video, I said it in my last video, but if you are watching this video from me, the guy who at this time has 400 and some odd subscribers, and you are this deep in this video, you definitely should not get discouraged, because you are the kind of person that is going to make this work for you. I promise you. I don't know you. I may know you, but I probably don't know you personally. But I can tell you, if you're watching my video this deep into it and you are studying land wholesaling this deeply, you're going to be fine. If you are struggling for whatever reason, whether it's generating leads or getting properties under contract or running comps, or you need contracts, I typically link everything below in the description. So first check there. But if you need any sort of extra support, please just reach out to me, email me, find me on Facebook, reach out to me. I'm very accessible. I'm super accessible. I'm always on my phone. I'm not the kind of person that is so busy that I can't respond to messages. Let's connect and let me know what you need. I'll do anything I can. Clearly, I'm recording these videos. I'm not monetized. This is just my mission with these videos is I just hope that I can give to whoever's watching this what I would have wanted when I got started. I don't remember watching people that were telling me this much detail about about closings and stuff like that. So I just really hope that I can add to you what I know for a fact I would have appreciated and needed when I got started. I do offer consulting and mentoring and stuff like that. It's not going to replace land wholesaling. This is what I do. This is what I'm going to do. I do offer that if these videos aren't enough and you have the resources to, pay for my time, I will definitely take care of you. But just reach out if you got a quick question or two, or if, you have a video idea that if I make it, it can help you and help others. Just let me know. Like I said, I say all that to say, if you're watching this deep into this video, you're going to make it. And if you need help with anything, or you feel discouraged or anything like that, just reach out, let me know. If you just need somebody to ask questions about or whatever, just let me know. So I really appreciate you watching this video. This is the story of my 17th closing. I hope it added value, and I hope you are able to be successful very soon in this industry.